everybody. Welcome to That Local Life podcast. I'm your host, Sydney. This is Tyler.
What's poppin', everybody? So today we have a very special guest, longtime Nyssa native, Bailey Meyers.
Very long time. Born and raised, right?
Born and raised. Bailey, happy to have you on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah?
I'm very impressed. You have a lot of things going on, so I'm excited to be
I have a lot.
part of it.
Yeah, good. Well, it sounds like you have a lot going on too, right?
I feel like that just runs in the Nyssa blood, right? You can't be not busy. If you're not busy, something's wrong.
Seriously, 100%. So kind of take us through give us a brief overview of what you do and your highlights.
Oh, man. Okay.
Then we'll dive in.
So highlights, I work on my family farm.
Okay.
I do a lot of our marketing and come up with different ideas.
Sure.
A really fun side of the farm, right? Not out in the field, but really behind the scenes, letting the public learn in a fun way. And then I own my own business. I do all sorts of stuff with it. I do events and rentals and photography, all kind of encapsulated into one. And then I've done a lot with freeze-dried candy, food, different like side hobbies, staying busy always. So
Okay. So growing up, you guys obviously have a farm. Was that where you spent most of your time?
we were always on the farm or doing something farm related. Like one of my first memories that I think is kind of a funny story. I remember Christmas Eve, we got an order for some onions that we didn't have finished, and somehow all of the cousins were called in, and we were working at the onion shed on Christmas Eve to finish this order to get it shipped out. And I was like, who would want to work on Christmas Eve? But if it's in your blood, it's there. So
yeah, you do what you got to do. That's awesome. So did you always want to help out with the family farm, or did you go through a period like growing up, you're like, this kind of sucks, I want to do something different?
I mean, I think growing up in a small town, everyone always has this, like, I've got to get out of here, got to go do something different. And I kind of got that experience with college.
Okay.
Moved away, realized that I really like the small town feel. I like being where everyone kind of knows everyone. But then coming back was always just so welcoming. Like, it's home. So I wanted to find a way to come back, but I didn't necessarily want to end up on the farm. I was thinking education or starting something new.
Sure.
But then family, right? It's hard to say no to come back with working with family. It's a challenge.
It is.
A challenge for sure. But family just kind of has a way of like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah, sure. So they convinced you.
Where'd you go to school, and what did you go to school for?
So I actually went to school at BYU, Hawaii, which is like awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I had told myself that I wasn't going to go anywhere cold. So obviously, right? So right after high school, I actually took a year off. Did state office for FFA. Got to travel for quite a while with that. Then went to school in Hawaii, and I got an interdisciplinary degree. The easiest way to describe it is like it's ag tourism, but my actual degree is business, entrepreneurship, and then hospitality and tourism with emphasis in agricultural education.
Interesting.
It's a combination.
That sounds intense.
Yeah.
So from an entrepreneurship perspective, how does somebody teach that in college?
You basically write your own degree, and you are taking classes from everyone. So I would take a class from a hospitality and tourism teacher, and then I would turn around and take a psychology class, and then I would take an agricultural class in the same day. And it was a unique combination, but I would go back to college in a heartbeat because I loved it so much.
That's cool. You had such a good
Hawaii.
experience. Yeah, and you got to go to Hawaii.
Everyone's always like, why would you come home?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's expensive over there.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
That's cool. So what is your business?
So my business is called Bea's Black Sheep.
Okay.
And I mainly do events and rentals. So kind of following in your mom's footsteps, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I had her a lot influencing my life in a young age, right? So going out and doing events, setting it up, taking the stress away from someone else, helping their dream kind of become a reality is something that I do with most of the events that, whether they're big or small.
Sure.
I've done farm to fork dinners. So people from the community get to come out. You eat all local food on the farm on a very nice like setting. So it's a very different feel than like a picnic, but like a fancy picnic, I guess.
Fancy picnic. Okay. Cool.
So I do that a lot. I do photography with that. And between those, it kind of just gives me my creative outlet. I need something to be creative with other than just sitting at a computer all day. So,
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So where did the name Bea's Black Sheep come from?
Oh, that's a good one.
Name.
Yeah. So all of my family and most of my friends call me Bea. It's just the nickname. I don't even know where it came from, to be honest.
I never knew it in high school or any growing up at all. So
yeah, all of my like nephews and nieces, they all call me Bea. My brother called me Bea. I don't really know where it came from.
Just stuck one day.
Just stuck, yeah. So I'm either Bea or Bae to like most of the people in the valley, right? And then black sheep. I always felt like I was kind of a little bit of a black sheep in Nyssa. Like,
love it.
I'm a little creative, a little spunky, sometimes stubborn, whatever you want to call it. So I'll embrace it. I'll be weird, and I think it's fun to stand out. Whether you're standing out by yourself or for community or anything like that, if you can find something that makes you different and just embrace it, it's way more fun in life. So.
Words of wisdom right there. Yes. That's cool. So do you have employees with your business?
I do not.
Or is it just you?
Just me.
Just you. Wow. Yep. How do you manage that?
It is a lot of like prepping. So if I'm doing an event, I will take 2 days off before the event just to make sure I have everything I need packed, easily accessible, like I'm ready for any event that's going to happen, just so when I get there, I don't have to, like call someone else and be like, hey, I'm in a pickle. Like I have it all there with me.
So how many events a year do you do?
So this is only my second or third year as like an official business.
Sure.
COVID was when I was going to start, and as we know, COVID did a lot of different things. So
did some people dirty for
sure.
Yeah.
So I didn't really start then, didn't have a lot of events. But 2021, I did, oh my goodness, like 5 events total. Okay. So not a lot, just enough to keep me busy. And then this year has been really busy as far as weddings. I got a lot more bookings and weddings. And then I really didn't do as many farm to fork dinners here, but I actually got hired to do them other places. So I did one in California.
Wow.
I've done some for like small businesses or nonprofits. They'll get a hold of me and I set it up at a venue. It's a nice little dinner. Sometimes I do auctions and things like that at them. So
that's neat. So do you have like a warehouse of inventory? Do you just like rent from somebody else? Do you use their equipment? Like how does that work since you're a one-man team?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. I have quite a bit of inventory on hand. I have a couple storage units full of boxes that are not as organized as they should be. Can you relate?
Tyler's mom.
Yeah. That's what I said. She influenced me like
She's
crazy.
Times that by 10.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know that I can always call her if I have anything that I'm like, I need this, because she'll have it. So.
She will.
100%.
She will.
Always. So between that and like making connections in the industry, I can usually find anything I need for an event.
Yeah.
And then I usually will put it into a pickup and just pack it absolutely full and go to the event.
That's a really interesting concept, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, when you think of an events business, you think giant warehouse, you think of 100 people working for you.
Oh, yeah.
You think of all that stuff. But in all reality, like with today's day and age, you can outsource pretty much everything. So you can have 1 or 2 people, you show up, you put your stuff together, and you're gone.
And I'll usually like manage, right, with different vendors that they've connected with. Like, I am not a DJ. Don't put me in charge of music at all. So I'll talk to them and make connections, but it's not my job to be in charge of it.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
that's really neat. That's cool. So how did the freeze-dried candy aspect come in to that?
Yes. So fun fact, my cousins and I actually went in and bought this freeze dryer together. Okay. And we were determined to kind of make this business work. A lot of people had gotten into it. It was pretty cool.
Crazy
right?
moment. Yeah.
And then they all went off to school. So I was the only one home. And I was like, I am going to figure this out. So I just kept trial and error. I freeze dried all sorts of stuff from candy to food, soups, all kinds of stuff. And then, it's really good, actually.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yes. So, just did a bunch of little test samples. And then once we kind of got it rolling, we do our asparagus sales direct to consumers on the farm.
Okay.
And so we started setting up a little boutique, and that's where I sell most of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you go to like other farmers markets and stuff too with it, or you just
done
one place?
One other farmers market, but most of the time it's usually that short window. I have had a few people reach out. I did a sale over at, I think it's called like Red Barn or something in Weiser.
Yeah.
Did one over there, and that went really well. But I think it's a unique way to just kind of fill your time and have a little
when you're not
added
doing
something.
events. Yeah.
Interesting. So what do you actually do on the farm side of things? I mean,
feel
that's
like
your full-time job, right? So
Yeah, so full-time job, I mean, I feel like I just kind of wear a bunch of different hats. Depends on the day.
Whatever you want to do that day.
Yeah. But I do a lot of work with our marketing. So we go to at least 4 food shows a year. And I am in charge of like booth setup, design, getting all of that arranged to get the materials from here to the show, coordinating people to help me set up, and bring it all the way back home. So that's takes up a majority of the time, especially when those events are near. It's a lot of pressure. But other than that, I do a lot of social media creation. I work a lot with my brother. He does a lot on social media. Yeah. So we do podcasts and videos. Right? Yeah, Shay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So we'll do videos, podcasts, TikToks. Yeah. We'll just have content days, and then we'll come back and put it all together. And then other things in the office, I mean, I feel like I'm definitely the decorator in the office. I like to bring in like fun stuff to do, right? You got to have like Christmas spirit this time of year. Yeah. You got to have all kinds of stuff. So I do that, and then just kind of work on creating a culture in the business where people want to come work for us rather than us begging people to come work because we need
just
it.
Being a chore.
Yeah, I want them to enjoy it. So I do a lot of research into that.
I like that. I like that a lot. So growing up, I know you said you really didn't like picture yourself being here, but what things were you doing as a kid that kind of helped you prepare for this stuff?
I mean, growing up, both of my parents were super involved in the community. I don't remember ever having a free weekend. We were either at an auction, at a benefit something, at a dinner, somewhere. My dad was an auctioneer, so he was always at those kind of events. Yeah. And then my mom was on Chamber of Commerce. She did all sorts of stuff in the community. And so I would just be at events all the time. And so I think being around people, seeing events, seeing how they operate from setup to tear down to everything in between kind of gave me that, like, I don't know, little that bug. Push. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, I could do this.
Yeah. Interesting. So do you plan on becoming CEO of the farm one day, or what do you plan on there?
So there's a lot of us on the farm. We have about 10 households, maybe even 11 now. So there's a lot of us to divide it up against.
I can see that.
Honestly, we work really well as a team. Like we have meetings at least once a week. Everyone comes in. And I think just looking forward to being able to build relationships with my family, but also like a business relationship with them. So I don't ever want to run something all by myself, but maybe part of the team to help run it.
Yeah.
You got your own business for that, right? That's cool.
Yeah.
We're going to have to talk to you off camera here about our marketing efforts and like for social media, because like we do quite a bit. I mean, with this,
you guys do a lot with
this. Is a media company too, right? So like we do advertising and stuff for other companies, and obviously the more we can learn, the better.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I definitely can see us bouncing ideas off of each other.
100%.
Yeah. I know I kind of took over the social media when I stepped in, and it's definitely, I get a lot of comments on it, but I still don't know what I'm doing.
Well, and I feel like social media is such a hard thing for people to understand. Like, most people just look at it and it's like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah. But there's so much that goes behind the scenes. You have to know the algorithms and when to post and what it needs to look like and the words to use. And most people don't look at it for that reason.
Yeah, I almost fell asleep just you talking about that, because it's obviously not the sexy side of social media.
There's a lot that goes into it. And it's hard to learn too.
There's not like a great outlet to learn from. It kind of just is trial and error, and you keep pushing and it drains you, and then you get a really good post and you're like, okay, I'm energized.
There's videos to watch on YouTube and stuff, but I feel like they all say something different.
They do. And then
like it's never just one.
If you want somebody's like formula, you got to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to give somebody that like what actually works.
Right? Come to my training and learn how to do it. And you're like, okay, well, $300, not worth it.
Yeah.
All the people on YouTube are like, here's 10 steps of how to make your marketing better, and it's like,
how to make your business grow on social media.
Have passion. 2, post every day. 3, have cool content. 4, and it's like, okay, well, we know that
like
stuff
the basic
already.
Stuff we know. Yeah.
Like we know all that, but
I do think our generation is different in that, right? We grew up with social media is how we get our news. It's how we get our info. It's how we learn, and I think we've had to learn how to adjust to the whole social world.
Yeah. Even like people younger than us, right, are so much more tech savvy than we are, and 100% like. I still find myself struggling with, like, how do I do that again? Like, where's my password? What's
guilty?
This? What's that? Like, so, I mean, that's definitely very, very interesting to the point where you almost don't want to be a consumer of it, right? You just want to post and get off.
It does. It makes it
And
kind
get
of
out.
toxic where you're like, I don't really want to be on there today. And then when you are, you're like, oh, I should have done that. Why didn't I think of that first?
Yeah, seriously. And it's very degrading in a way, to the point where you're always watching what someone else is doing and you're like, oh, I could be doing that. But
or when you create something, you're like, this is going to be gold. And then you post it and it's not, and you're like,
it's like 10 views. And you're like,
God.
damn.
And you're like, man, I spent so much
It's
time
so
on that.
discouraging.
Seriously.
And then you'll post things that you're like, this is trash. And it blows up.
You'll post a video that you spent like 5 minutes working on. It's like 16,000 views, 17,000 views. And you're like, how?
I don't know what I did differently, but
it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
It is. It's a mind
stupid.
game.
It really is.
Yeah.
But, excuse me. Wow. That
Tyler's
was
having some
intense.
issues. It's
I
fine.
am.
almost took
That's
down
okay.
that microphone over there.
I did. Bailey,
Yes.
what are your future plans?
Oh, man, that's like a deep question.
Family,
He
kids?
asks me that question every single
do.
day, and I still don't have the answer.
Yeah, how does
so.
anyone know? I don't.
That's what I say. I'm like, I don't know, and he's like, well, just think about it. I'm like, I don't know what. Like, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah, ask me today, and my answer is going to be different tomorrow.
I tell him that all the time.
I get that. I'm a visionary type, so I like to think about future. Hardcore all the time. So
I think about now,
no one else
and
does.
maybe 3 days from now.
Yeah, I mean, I like to plan, but I'm not like a heavy
deep-
duty
yeah,
planner.
yeah.
Like, but
That's fair.
okay, so I definitely want to be in this area,
Sure.
right? Like I plan on raising a family in the area, being around here, having a reason to stay, right? And a lot of that, I think, also comes from, I watched your guys' first episode, and it was like probably one of my favorites, but
That's cool.
creating the community, right?
Yeah.
I want to be able to raise a family where my kids want to stay and want to come back and have the opportunity to come back.
Yeah.
Not just where they're like, oh yeah, I'm home for the holidays because, you know.
I hate
but
it here.
Yeah, I want them to love it here and have a reason to love it. So definitely working on coming up with ideas for that. I have like 2 or 3 things that are like my goals for Nyssa. Probably don't know if they'll ever happen, but they're like goals on there. But just being around and involved in the community. I feel like right now in my life, maybe not like 10 years down the road, but like right now is a good time to be involved, right?
Well, you got the energy.
Yeah, have the energy. I have the time. And I think just being involved in the community, raising a family here, working on the farm, being involved enough where you can make connections and build a network of awesome people.
That's so awesome. So let's talk about the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
What do you love about living here?
I love and hate at the same time the community, right?
Yeah.
You can really do one thing, and before you even make it home, 10 other people already know about it, and you're like, all right, cool, you know?
100%.
So that part, it's a love and hate relationship.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's so special. Like when you'll talk to someone who didn't grow up in a small town, you're like, oh yeah, my graduating class had 68 people. It was awesome. Like I knew everyone. I knew 2 grades above me and 4 grades below me.
Pretty much.
And it blows their mind. And I'm like, that is what's special, right? I can walk up to anyone that I went to school with, even if they weren't in my grade, and be like, oh my goodness, how are you? And they'll be able to relate to you because they know who you are.
That's something I always wish I had, because my graduating class was over 700 kids. And I literally, I was cutting hair one time, and this kid, we ended up graduating same school, same year. I had no clue who he was.
That like is crazy to me.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That
it
is
was
so many
and you
people.
don't learn anything. It's like you just go to pass. Are you really learning anything? No.
See, and I feel like that is one thing in our small town. You are learning not just like fundamentally to pass for school, but there's so many real life applications. If
Yeah.
you need a job or if you need to learn something, there is someone in the community who will teach you.
Yeah, and I feel like you can teach each kid depending on how they learn rather than just as a whole, because you don't have as many kids to tend to.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So speaking off of that, what are the ideas that you have for this town?
Man,
Put it on a
okay.
put
If
it
you
on a
want to
public-
share,
to the
yeah.
public.
Put it on a public platform here.
I honestly really think that Nyssa could benefit from a lot of things. But one is like our main street is so beautiful. Like if you look at the historical photos of Nyssa, it was a place to come and a place to come see. Even if you weren't staying in town, just to drive through it and see it, there's so much beauty.
Right.
And I feel like in years past, we've kind of just covered it up and fixed it so that it looks good, but it's not its full potential, right? So you have old storefronts everywhere. And rather than restoring them, we're just like patching them and covering them. Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler has a very strong opinion on that.
I do.
Oh,
so
wow.
You're speaking to my ears here.
Okay.
Just keep going.
Like,
keep
hopefully
going.
it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it
keep
is.
going.
Yeah.
I just, like, you've seen it be successful. I mean, downtown Caldwell used to be a place where no one wanted to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's one of the most popular photography spots in the valley. And you have people who go there to go ice skating, to just look at lights. Even when it's not Christmas season,
It's still busy.
it's a place to go.
It's
There
like
are things to
280
do.
events a year.
Yeah,
something
it's
like that.
crazy.
It's nuts.
Well, and the restaurants and the business that it brings, it creates a place where people want to go. It's
Yeah.
comfortable. It's cozy. It's a want to be. Same as like Sisters, Oregon.
Yeah.
If you drive through Sisters,
Yeah.
you're like,
I
oh
love
my gosh,
Sisters.
this place is so pretty.
I love Sisters.
We have that potential right here. And all of
Yeah.
us are just kind of like, well, I don't know, you know. So that's like, ultimate goal would be to like facelift Nyssa. And whether we find funding for it or just get enough people who have the same idea to start, you know, saving for it, small steps at a time. That's like ultimate goal right there. And the other thing is, this is kind of more like personal,
I
but
say, call people out, Tyler.
don't do it, class. I'm just kidding.
Better watch out, people.
Yeah. The other one's more personal, but I think our small community, we have a really hard time with if your older generation didn't get along with another family who lives here, it's like passed down to the next generation.
Yeah.
And to me, it's so crazy. Like, I could have gone to school with this person, but because they have a last name of whatever, I'm like not supposed to be friends with them or not supposed to talk to them because our families didn't get along. And I think the biggest change that our generation could do is kind of just mending those bridges and being like,
Yeah.
okay, like I totally get that there was something said and I'm sorry if it offended anyone, but it's time to move on and become this stronger community together.
Right.
Rather than keeping the bridges
Yeah.
burned, let's just build them back better and make it so that things can be said and people can get offended but still move on. So,
I like that because, I mean, I have seen that hierarchy growing up. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
You know, mainly it's between the richer families, right, in the area. And there's a lot of back and forth that goes on. Like, we don't talk to those people. We don't go hang out with them. We don't go by their places. We don't buy from their businesses. It's like, it's
well, and it can be something
hardcore.
so silly like
You said
you
something
just
wrong.
yeah, you said something wrong or you wore the wrong shirt and it was like, I'm sorry that I wore a different brand or I don't know. Like,
yeah, or
why
you
do-
don't believe in the same things, or you
Yeah.
don't. It's
And I
it
just
sucks.
think our community could benefit if everyone was just like, I really don't care what you believe. I don't care what you want to do in your life, but if we both have the same goal, why not
Mm-hmm.
work on it rather than be like, you know, I'm good
Yeah.
without you.
Mm.
It just creates a cool team aspect for the community.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you said you had 3.
Oh,
What's your
goodness.
third one?
What was the third one?
It'll hit you.
I know. Now I got to think about it.
It'll probably be after the podcast. but you'll be
When I'm like on my drive home, yeah.
You'll be like, oh, by the way.
Oh, here's what it is. So,
Okay.
community events, I feel
Uh-huh.
like we do a really good job of having like 2 or 3 a year,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the same people have to put in the effort to make those events happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go to an event, it's always like the same 6 people. We're the ones that set it up. We'll tear it down. They're the ones that put in the effort. So finding a way to make it so that other people want to get involved. And you don't have to be to the capacity where
Yeah.
it's like you're in charge of it, but how do we get people involved that can give just a little bit? Like, what do you want to give and I'll find a spot for you, rather than here's the time commitment I need. It's okay, here's what you can give me, let's find a spot for you.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way, an interesting concept that I believe probably should actually be implemented right
Yeah.
now, because I'm on the chamber, right?
Yeah.
Off and on the chamber, and it's mostly the chamber that's putting these events on, right?
Most of the
and
time,
it's
yeah.
the same people that's doing it.
Exactly.
And we do struggle to find people that want to do it. Like, even myself, I'm like, do I really want to go do that today?
Exactly.
Disclaimer. But yeah, it's so if you could really find some strengths that people have, and not like, hey, you got to be on here for a full year to participate,
Yeah.
or to
If you give
help out with
people
these
the
events.
choice, they're more willing to participate rather than
Yeah.
a mandatory thing.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. And if you make it fun, like, this is what we get out of it, this is what we do, like, we're
Yeah.
helping our community, like, do you want to see the town that you live in thrive or fall apart?
Exactly.
Which
Like,
one?
here's the event that's happening. Here's the jobs that need filled. If you want to help, let us know. Not the here's what needs filled and it's a 2-year
Yeah.
commitment or a 2 times a week commitment. It's a, here's what we need done. Can you help us with it?
I like that.
Yeah.
Back to the first one, because that is where things piss me off the most.
Oh my gosh, yes.
What kind of ideas do you have? Like, how do you plan on those changes happening?
So this kind of starts when I'm little, right? My mom being on the chamber, I remember putting together like shadow boxes of old photos of Nyssa. And I was always like, that's not our town. Like, that's so cool, but that is not Nyssa. And they would point out where it is. And I'm like, man. And so I don't really know like the proper steps to even start it or where to start.
Sure.
I do think getting people aware and maybe on the same page, helping them see that there is something that can happen, creating that vision, whether it's an actual drawing or, I don't know, just letting them understand that Nyssa has so much potential. Like, we don't have to stay this small little falling apart town, but we can become this stop. Like, there's rumor of the train stop that's going to start from like Salt Lake to Portland, and Ontario has signed up for it. Caldwell has signed up for it. And in my opinion, like, why are we not signing up for it, right? Why don't we create this stop where Nyssa can become this place where people want to be?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So
You're on the chamber, so what's the proper steps, sir?
I'm gonna call some people out on this. So
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
gonna,
Do it.
I'm not gonna use names, but Nyssa has a long history of not wanting things to come into town, right? So Coca-Cola had an opportunity to be here, and who shut it down? The city. Okay, the sugar factory. They put some things in place, and they packed up and took their business elsewhere. And it's some of the same people that are still on that board today. I have no problem saying that. But it's and a lot of people that are in the community as well. Like when I've been there, we brought in, as the chamber, we brought in the like the small town consultant. I don't know if you were aware of that or not, but we paid some guy $25,000 to come in and do a whole survey on our town. So he came in, he shopped at all the businesses, he stayed here for a week, unbeknownst, no one knew who he was. He shopped, he ran analytics on traffic data, the whole nine. And he's actually the guy that put together Indian Creek in Caldwell.
Oh, that's cool.
So he put their full plan together. And you see how awesome that turned out, right?
Yeah.
And so he came and did that for us. But we never ended up using any of it.
That's the key right there. Like, you've already made the step, but you just got to implement it.
Yeah.
And, so we do the same events on the chamber every year. We have our banquets, we have our Farmers Appreciation, Thunder Egg Days, and they're all amazing events, right? But for me, what I'm actually seeing is we haven't implemented any of those changes. Like, he gave us a step-by-step plan to come into the town and change it, to add that community center or community gathering spot, to beautify the town, put maybe some kind of tax on Main Street for businesses that are there that kind of pay into it, and then those taxes are used to beautify the buildings, invite new people to come in, and that's not happening.
The thing is, I know that there's not just on the board, but like as a community,
not
there
just
are
board.
a lot of people who kind of fear the change.
They do.
Right?
Yeah,
Nyssa
they
is
do.
Nyssa, and they don't want change. And I don't think it's like, yes, we want to bring in 6 different huge industries and destroy the small town.
Yeah, we
but
don't
it's
wanna do
rather, we want to highlight the small town feature that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is local? What makes Nyssa Nyssa?
Right.
And highlight it rather than bringing in something to change it. Let's make it so that we highlight what makes it what it is.
So, yeah, I mean, and listening to a lot of people in the town, it's the number that he came up with, the percentage that he came up with, which leakage, is where someone either makes their money in Nyssa and spends it elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
And that number was like 80%. It was horrifying, right? So people are making their money here, but taking it elsewhere. And that sucks, right? Like we have a grocery store. We have 4 or 5 restaurants in town that people could shop at and eat at, but they're not, right? And looking at the numbers over the last 20 years, Nyssa has not grown at all.
Yeah.
It's fluctuated, I think, 200-300 people up and down throughout the years. That's it. Nothing. And what that tells me is that it's either people aren't just wanting to move here because of violence, gangs, whatever it is, It's
the state laws.
The state laws. People that I've talked to don't want people to move there. They don't want to see the change, which sucks. And go ahead.
You've got to help them see like growth in Nyssa, like in the population. Okay, you don't want to see people move here. Keep it country. Oh, we totally get that. Yeah. Like we don't want a big city here. Exactly. Yeah. And rather than making it, we want people to come here, that's the definition of success. How about having people who want to even come and visit? Yeah, having people who want to be like, I don't need to live in Nyssa, but it's going to be my getaway spot.
Yeah.
Rather than driving to Caldwell or rather than driving to the mountains, they can come to Nyssa and get that same experience where it's like, I'm going to relax for the weekend.
Yeah.
And they can come here.
There's bike paths for the kids to go on. There's community center that they have events going on like Indian Creek, throughout the year. There's restaurants they can go eat at, little food trucks, grocery stores to shop at, museums to see, whatever Nyssa has to offer, right? We have a lot of museums. So,
that would even benefit the people in the community living here instead of having to drive to Caldwell. You can do your family outing here in your own town, support the local people,
if you will. And it would only inspire people who want to start their own business to start it in Nyssa, right?
Exactly.
Because you'll have the backing from the people.
Yeah, you're going to be supported by your community.
Yeah.
And that is one thing, right? Like, Oregon makes it really difficult to have a business in Oregon. Yeah. Like, it's not something that if I'm thinking about starting a business, why would I start it in Oregon?
You wouldn't.
But if you can get the back from your community,
the support,
then you're going to be like, okay, let me double think this. Let me really dive into how I could be successful here versus 2 miles over the river, right?
Yeah, and what really floored me was I went to a Adrian 2040 meeting. Okay, and I've been looking at building second location for us here at the store, and I know that the Adrian 2040 had a meeting back in 2018 and said they wanted a grocery store in their town, right? And they were willing to do pretty much anything that it took to have somebody come in and do that.
To get one.
So I went to a meeting and we had city officials there. There was superintendents there from the school. And every single person, when I opened my mouth and said, I want to build a second location here, what do I have to do? They're like, oh, you want to do that? Here's what you got to do. Here's a whole list. Here's what we got to do. Here's the sewage. Here's the septic. Here's the building. Here's who owns it. Here's the land. Here's who.
She's like, stop.
My hands
I just hear it on the table.
Anyway.
I've been using mine the whole time.
Oh, yeah. But so who owns what? Who does what? Like how? That's awesome. And I know Nyssa wouldn't ever do that.
Yeah, they don't want to put the steps in place, right? It's more like hoops to jump through to get there rather than, okay, we want it to, here's what we need. It's, okay, let's jump through the hoops and we'll make it work. But let's not just make it work.
Or let's talk about it, but let's not follow through with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's to piss anybody off, okay? It's just a matter of fact of, like, this is stuff that has to change, especially if you want to see your town grow, move, get better, have better education, have better people living in your town, get rid of the drugs, get rid of the violence, whatever it is you got to do. Like, these are the steps that it takes to actually make something happen, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's the making Nyssa more beautiful or making it safer community or the education. There has to be steps to do any of those goals.
100%. Yeah. And there has to be, obviously, people that want to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And you have to give them a platform, like this podcast, or
there you go.
Other mediums where people can voice their opinion and be like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to happen. And here's the things I'm willing to do to make it happen. And Allison McLaughlin, she came in and she was actually working on a bike path for a while. Like,
I've seen a lot of posts about it, actually.
There's actually state funds that the city has that can be used for grant money and et cetera, to actually build a bike path. So she came in and she was doing a lot of that stuff, which is great. We need more people like her to come in and kind of be like this tornado, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
Make a mess. And then have people see like, oh,
like that would benefit us.
It's not that bad if we have something come in, right? It's not necessarily that you want industry, right? Like maybe we don't want Coca-Cola to come in.
Yeah, maybe we don't want the big industries.
We don't care. But we want Sally from down the road to open up her restaurant or her candy store and be successful, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what a small town is about.
I think if you can find a way to support agriculture, because that's a huge industry in our area, right?
Massive.
If you can support agriculture and have a way for a community to be successful in addition to that, you're making the money in your town find a way to spend it in your town.
Yes.
Rather than going to a different grocery store or going to the movies in a different town, what if we had something here where they could spend their money?
Yeah.
So you're not really welcoming a whole bunch of industries. You don't want to change the dynamics of the town.
100%.
Obviously, I can speak for myself, but I'm going to assume for you too. If you come back to Nyssa, you love Nyssa. You love how you grew up. You love the atmosphere it created. You just want it to continue and not die off. Like, how do we keep it going in a positive direction rather than just kind of like maintaining?
Even if the population doesn't grow, you might get some growth if you have some more industry, right? You might have 5,000 people in a town instead of 3. That's still a small town by any definition of the book. But guess what? You have an infrastructure that supports people. Yeah. That supports families to come in, to buy a home, to work in the same town that they live in, to spend the money in the town that they live in. Like, it takes some work. And at the same time, if you don't want to do that, the town eventually goes down and it becomes a ghost town. Yeah. Right?
It's maintaining, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, we don't want it to grow exponentially. Cool. Let's just keep it the same then. What do we need to do to keep it a healthy community?
Well, in my experience, if you're not growing, you're dying. Okay? It's hard to just maintain, because what happens when you maintain, right? You stop doing the things that made you exceed at first.
That makes sense.
So if we just maintain, which we've been maintaining for 20 years now, right? And what do you see happening? Nothing. I think Monk's building was the first new building in like 50 years.
Yeah, the first one that I remember in a long time.
Yeah. So that's what it looks like when you maintain, right? So, no. Just some food for thought.
Not saying we don't love the town, obviously.
No, I love the town. I'm in the town. I'm in the chamber. I'm involved.
We want to be here.
We want these things to happen, right? Yeah. And it's just a matter of getting other people to see the benefits of actually participating in that, right?
Yeah.
No, I think that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
You're welcome.
On, the community. It's something I'm very passionate about as well. So
I think it's something people need to be passionate about, whether or not they are now. Yeah. You've got to find a way to make it matter.
Yeah. And if you don't want small town America to fall apart, like, that's what it takes to get your town successful.
Yeah.
Right? So definitely something that that's why I started this right here, was to inspire people to make a change in what's going on. So,
well, it's the local life, right? You gotta love it, but you also have to want it to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. You can't just want it and then go away.
No.
Right? You have to gotta put in some of that work.
You gotta put in some of the work. You also, I feel like a lot of people, this is like the fear, at least what I've been hearing, right? People are gonna move here and they're not gonna understand why X, Y, or Z happen. Mm-hmm. Well, that's just how things happen here, and they'll adjust to it, right? Like, you get stuck behind a tractor, you're going to go slow. Like, you're going to learn to adjust to that.
100%.
And I know that can scare a lot of people, right? It's a dangerous thing if people don't respect what's happening here. But if you don't give them the chance to learn it and to understand it, then they're never going to respect it.
Well, and that's where the education piece comes in, right? If you had the chamber office up and running, people could come in and, we have 1 billion onions shipped out every year. We have this farm over here doing asparagus. We have this farm over here doing mint. We have and there's big trucks or there's big tractors. Like, this is how they do it. This is the process. Like, if you can educate people on why the things happen in their town, like, most of the time they're like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cool piece to be able to showcase to people.
Well, that's the ag education that Shay and I do, right? Mm-hmm. If you can create content of what these people perceive as agriculture,
sure,
and you show it to them on social media, their minds are blown. They're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that an onion grew in the dirt. And you're like, I got a lot of fields to show you, right?
Yeah.
But most people, if you don't give them the chance to learn, nothing's ever going to change.
Right.
So you got to teach them in a fun way, get them involved in a fun way. Make it something that, unless someone is involved or wants to participate, they're not going to care about anything.
Yeah.
They have to have a want themselves.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it all comes back to how do you show people what they don't know they want to see.
Exactly.
Right? If you asked Henry Ford back in the day, like, what do you guys want? They would have just said, I want a faster horse and buggy, right? Rather than, here's a car. Here's a Model T.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
Yeah.
It's stuff like that you have to really put in front of them and have to actively work on. So I love what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. I'm impressed with you guys. This is awesome. I like it.
This
We could talk for
podcast
days.
might be controversial. I love it.
We gave them warnings
It's
the
cool.
very
This is the
first
last
episode.
person I thought that I would have to like,
Pre-warn about.
pre-warn, but I love it.
Sorry.
No, it's great. I
It's
think
okay.
No, it's 100%. We absolutely love it, and I'm
Good.
the one that said anything. You didn't say anything.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's only good. I like. How do I want to put it?
He's gonna have to think on this one.
I like the banter. I like. What really gets people fired up is controversy, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how you spark anything.
They have
in
to have
anybody.
a cause.
Yeah.
They have to be able to choose a side, right?
Yeah. If you
This
just
is something that needs to be talked about, though, but I feel like people don't talk about it.
They
I mean,
don't.
I'm not
I would
from
agree.
here,
They really don't.
but these are things I agree on. And from having people on the podcast, there's a lot more people than like I expected that feel this way.
There's a lot more that agree than don't.
Yeah.
100%. Like we get people reaching out to us every day. Like we love what you're doing. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
Or
That's
like
so
the
cool.
changes to the store, people are super supportive about it, but I feel like the people who only express their opinions are the ones that don't want it to happen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But again, it's like some people are afraid of change, but it's showing them that change isn't necessarily bad,
Yeah.
right? Like this can be a place where people can come and tell their story.
Mm-hmm.
Our community has the coolest people, and there's a lot of times
100%.
when people don't get to know the story. Like
Yeah.
I would never get to know that so and so was into whatever
Yeah.
without having this podcast or without having a platform. You're not going to go walk down the street and be like, hey, it's really cool to meet you. What's your name? Tell me your story.
Yeah.
No one does that. right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no one stops anybody on the side of the road because it's weird now, right?
Yeah, I don't really know why that changed, but,
I don't either.
but just like that, creating a place where people can come and express what they're thinking, they're feeling, share their story is unique. But then also creating a way for them to be like, oh, there's other people who think like me. There's
Yeah.
other people who want the town to be successful.
Yeah.
And don't. I'm in the fence, right? Like I don't want a ton of change, but I want healthy change. There
Healthy
needs to be something
Yeah.
that helps our town grow and be a place where the next generation wants to
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
They're not like,
It's
I'm
going to take
so gone.
people like us
Yeah.
to really
It's going to be
like,
the younger
open that up.
generation to
Yeah.
help
Oh, yeah.
open other people's minds.
It is 100%. I agree with that. And yeah, I want to live here. I want to stay here forever.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I might move to the Idaho side because I like the politics over there better.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
But I'm
If
always
Oregon would just,
yeah.
change a little bit.
Maybe
it's
if
fine.
Idaho
Yeah.
like eventually incorporates us into their side,
Man, that's a goal that
I
like
wouldn't be opposed.
Right.
Okay. But
Otherwise, we'll just move on 5 minutes down the other way.
yeah, I'll just toss a
just
rock into
Yeah.
a new
on the
place.
Literally,
Idaho
literally.
side.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's because you guys are on the Idaho side with the farm, right?
We have some of both actually.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have technically like 4 farms. The farm
Yeah.
side is on Oregon, but our onion packing set's Idaho.
Mm.
So we split it.
Sure.
But you can definitely see why people moved to Idaho. Like Snowmageddon happened.
Yeah.
And there was not a lot of time that it took to decide we were moving to Idaho. So
Yeah, seriously. I mean, look, the taxes in Idaho are better.
they like business. They welcome
do.
business. They welcome change. They welcome growth. And you're like, oh,
That's part of the reason
Why do I
why
wanna go
you've
there?
seen
Moving-
Boise grow so much. Granted, I think it's definitely starting to go down the wrong direction, in my opinion. I was born
It
and
is.
raised there. It's kind of
Thank
sad
you.
what it's turning into.
uh-huh.
But there's a good way to go about it and a bad way. And our goal, I believe, is to push Nyssa in the good way. You know what I mean?
Nyssa,
If
Adrian.
you don't have someone pointing a direction, you're going to grow, but you don't get to control the way
Yeah.
in which that grows, right?
And Nyssa would never grow like Boise anyways. It's
No.
just not
No.
the area that people want to move to. It's the area people want to visit. And
Yeah.
so I feel like if we had like a facelift on half the buildings, like there's some buildings I didn't even know they were there. They're losing out on so much business that could really benefit them.
Yeah, if you drive down Main Street and you like look above the fake storefront and you can see the old brick, to me that is like heartwarming.
Yeah.
Like, I love when old buildings are there. I'm like, man, that has so much potential.
Yes.
Why
Yes,
can
it
it
does.
just not look like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So creating a way for you to have direction and growth is definitely a,
For sure.
a need.
I love
right?
that. I 100% love that. And, you know, people in this, I'm not calling out anyone in specific. I'm just stating things that have actually happened and facts. So please, You can yell at me all you want, but it's
Or
what's
don't
actually
yell,
happening.
just listen and take the feedback.
And
Yeah,
I think
like I
people-
said, you just gotta. Sometimes you have to take things, let them offend you, move on, and be like, okay, I'm gonna
Constructive
build a better
criticism.
bridge.
And-
Build
Yeah.
a better bridge.
I think everyone has the same goal, right? Like they're not intentionally sitting in that seat going, we don't want that. Take that out of here. Get rid of this, right? They're not doing that.
No.
It's just they're like they don't have a clear vision in mind of what they actually want the town to be.
That's
right?
it. Everyone wants the same thing for Nyssa. If you
They do.
talk to anyone, they want it to be successful.
Yeah.
They want it to be beautiful.
Yeah.
They want it to be safe and a good education and a place where people talk highly of.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone knows how to get there.
Correct.
So to me,
100%.
right, like, okay, I don't know how to run a grocery store. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to go open a grocery store.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if you could give me the steps of, here's what you need to do. All right, I might try it. Right?
Yeah. Or
I'll come work for you for a while, learn it.
Yeah, I'll volunteer my time. I'll go work for that local restaurant, you know.
Yeah.
And the only reason towns like this die is people don't spend money there. Like, right? They eat food at the restaurant one time and like, that wasn't that great. Let's go.
Drive 20 minutes the other way to the other town.
Let's go to Caldwell.
Yeah.
But if you eat there multiple times, you spend their money there. Eventually, guess what? Food gets better. Employees get better. Wages get better. Like, it takes time and effort, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that instant gratification, right? Like, it's something that happens over
It's a gradual
years.
thing, yeah.
Yeah. It's a slow change.
It's
but
either that or you go to a restaurant that's local, you eat there and you're like, man, that is so much better than the chain restaurant in Caldwell. But the people you're meeting up with are like, I'm not driving to Nyssa to eat.
Yeah.
Like, why would
Yeah.
I do that? So then if I can find a way to convince my friends to come visit me in Nyssa rather than meeting in
Me going there. Yeah.
the middle of downtown, okay, that's what you can get, right?
Right. I like that. Well, that kind of makes my last question obsolete for this whole podcast. Was
Okay.
what was the one impact that you want to have on this community? And I think we solved like 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we highlighted that. That was the topic.
So our whole episode was what the impact you wanted to have. So
Yeah.
we got it. We covered it. We
I think
nailed
it's a
it.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks
Bailey-
for coming on.
Yeah,
Bailey,
thanks for having me, guys.
Thank
Of
you for coming
course.
on. And we're going to have to collaborate on some things. So
We'll have some off-camera conversations.
Yeah,
We'll make some
definitely.
deals.
as always, folks, keep it local.